My friend Oscar is going to be talking about supervisor today in the outlook ahead. Oscar is a fellow of the AusIMM and has completed his PhD and is a skilled statistician and researcher with over 18 years of experience. Oscar's experience includes resource estimation and applications of condition simulation, uniform condition, change of support, and nonlinear techniques within the different range of commodities and mineralization styles. Oscar has strong theoretical background, combined with his strong working experience, has made him a sought after statistical sought after for customization, development, and presentation of statistical training courses all worldwide. When he's not crunching numbers, you will find Oscar on the softball diamond. I can see that Wallace's team didn't quite take out to the Premiership this year. Oscar claims he was the reason they managed to a respectable third place. I would like to see videos of that. But anyway, welcome.
Okay, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the lunch. Today I would like to talk a bit about supervisor, what is coming, as I mentioned, the strategic outlook. The idea of the presentation is, as I mentioned before, I'm going to mention the strategic outlook, some of the new features and improvement in supervisor. And I would like to finish the talk is describing some handy tips, for instance, to use conditional simulation and probability maps in supervisor. And to mention something that has been the work of Ian Glacken and Jane Lebeck is the drill hole spacing analysis in supervisor. But look, let me start first with the strategic outlook. You probably got the news on the email, but about 3 months ago, that was right, Anthony? About 3 months ago, it was announced that now the development of supervisor is being looked after by GeoVariances in France. The idea is that now the software or the solution has a full development team and support to support the development of supervisor. Of course, the team works closely with StudioRM, so that's an ISATIS. That's what you see, all this interoperability. There you go. between supervisor and ISATIS and StudioRM. And of course, you still have the local support. Let me introduce to you, that's the team in charge of developing supervisor now. We got Pauline, Ophélie, Benjamin, Elodie, and we got 3 developers. You can see we also have a test engineer and the development manager in there. So some of the new features and improvement in supervisor, you will see that recently, let's say in May, the version 9.1 was released. More recently, a patch to that version is version 9.1.1 was released and it's available to download. You need to be really careful when upgrading to version 9 on 9.1 and 9.11, particularly the location of the supervisor study. Right, you should get or you will get this compatibility warning, but let's say just save your old project with a different name and upgrade your version 9.1, and you will have all the data from your previous project. There has been some minor improvement on the software. First is the ability to model more than 2 structure and export that to third-party software. We also changed the size of the font when looking at the variograms, so you can see the different structures, the seal and the ranges. We added a small button for the box plot where you can select all box plot in one go. Something that has been required many times is the ability to deal with rotated block models. Is now available in version 9.11. It was not working right with version 9.1. There was a minor issue with the rotation convention. It was a bug that I reported to the development team. Now it's working fine. So basically the idea is that if you have a rotated block model, we rotate the data to match the local coordinates, and then we can run the model validation with rotated block models. Okay. We still need to be careful with the variography if you plan to use the theoretical grade tonnage curve, and with what we call in supervisor the across strike swath plot, because we are running now on the local coordinates of the block model, but is already working in supervisor. Now, let me mention to you what I described earlier is the CDF, the cumulative distribution functions and probability maps in supervisor. You know, conditional simulation has been around for a long time. I've been talking about conditional simulation a lot. And now we see more and more applications of conditional simulation. You know, we can run univariate or multivariate conditional simulations in supervisor, and we can get the probability maps. The probability maps is basically at each block, we got a number of simulations, right? So basically we apply a cutoff, or we define a cutoff, and then we count the number of simulations about cutoff. And we report that as a proportion. Okay, that's what you see on the maps, right? So that tool is available already in supervisor. We can export the probability maps to Studio RM to visualize that volume. But there is also a nice application of this approach. So here you get the maps, but if you look at one single block, what you have is the probability of being about cutoff. So that means that with that tool, at every single block, I can get, for instance, what we call the CDF, or the cumulative distribution function of that block. Okay. So basically what it's saying is that if I take my about cutoff proportions, that's what supervisor reports, and I compute 1 minus that, what I get is the CDF that I'm showing you at the bottom. So you can see that now every single block has a CDF. If you are an MIK practitioner, you know that MIK produces the CDF for each block after support correction, right? With conditional simulation, you get your CDF, no support correction involved, right? So you get those results at your block without the many work that MIK requires. Okay. The next component I would like to show you or to discuss is this drill hole spacing analysis. In supervisor is called grade control drill hole spacing analysis. Look, it's a component that has been there for a long time, and is not specifically designed to do drill hole spacing analysis, but we can use it, okay? So basically, remember, if we want to apply this Harry Parker's criteria, where we define a production volume and we define pseudo drill holes and check if we have, or if we are within 15% of the error 90% of the time, then we can use this component to deliver that result, okay? So just as a refresh, remember here that basically if we want to go down this path, we want to use this, basically what we need to know is the confidence. So that number 1.645 is from the Gaussian distribution, 19% confidence. Then we need is a measure of variability. In this case, is the Kriging invariance. So that sigma drill hole spacing is the standard deviation of the Kriging invariance. And then we need is the coefficient of variation of the data. So when you look at this component in supervisor, you can get the Kriging invariant from the component. So that's what I mentioned before. That's the work of Ian Glacken and Jane Lebeck. I guess you presented this 3 or 4 years ago, Ian? Yeah. So basically, you can see that in Supervisor, we define pseudo drill holes, right? At different spacings, so that we go 50 by 50, 75 by 75. Using that component, we get the Kriging invariance. And once we have the Kriging invariance, we compute the standard deviation. We got the coefficient of variation, and we can easily compute the confidence interval with a 90% confidence and get the graph. As I said, look, the component is not specifically designed to do this, but we can do it. So we get all the results from that, and we can produce the graph to analyze the classification for different drill hole spacing. Okay, I guess I mentioned it would be short, so that's it. Any questions?